I shall sit next to you here. Is that all right? Well, when are you going to sit here?
Sitting in the middle.
Well,
Sit in the middle.
it's all right. I can sit in the middle. Yeah, Caroline, I can sit in the middle.
No, it's just sitting in the middle. Alex can sit in the middle. No, Alex is as bad as I am, isn't she? You need to tap it or something.
Good morning. Have a seat, if you can find one. Well, how nice that you're all here, and nearly every seat in the house is filled. That's a great problem to have. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us online now or later on as well. Did you know that Morecambe Community Church on Facebook, how many have we got? Yeah. 790 something followers on Facebook. That's some audience, isn't it? If we all met one Sunday, there isn't a building big enough in Morecambe to host that just yet. So exciting times. Exciting today because today we're celebrating 20 years of Morecambe Community Church, which I know we've been doing that all May. But today is special because today we celebrated with a service sharing time. And I was thinking why our sharing times are so crucial. It's because the preacher gets a Sunday off. It's not true. Because the responsibility stays. Trust me, in years gone, when certain people, none of them are here anymore, got up to share in front of a microphone, my heart rate went up. And some people shared stuff that made the prophet Ezekiel sound sane, and very difficult to stop. And when people mistook it for karaoke, and all very interesting times we've had with sharing. But yes, 20. In other words, on the other hand, 20 years of preaching in the same church stretches you as a speaker, as a preacher, and all our preachers will be aware of that. We're not the traveling preachers where you have one message that stays the same, and wherever you go, you preach that one message. It's different here. You have to come up with a new way of speaking and telling the good news again and again and again. Especially because Ian Swash, behind the camera, remembers every single sermon ever preached. So very, very few times gets something recycled from the cupboard of old. It's not, we don't do the sharing time to give people a voice. That's sometimes sort of like, yeah, we have to give people a voice. And I think that's so rude because people already have a voice. We don't have to give you a voice. It just has to be heard. And so our sharing times give space to do that. And that's why sometimes that space requires quiet for a while. So sometimes you will know, if you've been here a while, that our sharing times are very quiet and there's long stretches of silence. And that's okay because we need space. We need space to think. We need space to perhaps pluck up the courage to speak out. And that's fine. So for me, sharing, the sharing time battles a few misconceptions about church and also about the Christian faith. One of the misconceptions is that some have more Holy Spirit than others and are therefore allowed to speak, and others have to be quiet and stumm. And what they're allowed to say is at the end, "Good word, Vicar." And I find that horrendous. That some are better Christians, are more important to be heard, and God speaks to them more than to others. And I think that's a whole lot of rubbish, because God speaks to everyone and anyone. And when we speak as speakers or preachers, those who prep, I always think I'm preaching, and I've said that before. I'm speaking as a fellow learner, as a fellow disciple. I'm still learning, and I'm still messing up, and I'm getting some things right, and I'm learning as I'm going along, just like everybody else is. Sometimes the experience counts. Sometimes when you've been doing it for as long as we have, you know a few things. You know what works, you know what's not working, you know what's what, and you get an idea, and you've got kind of an instinct of where God's leading and so on. And that's all experience, and it's really good and necessary. Maturity is another word for that. And I think as a church you need maturity. But sometimes the rookie has the edge, the startup Christian, in other words. The years of being in God's mission field, where experience counts, steadying the boat and charting the course and guiding through storms and guiding through lulls when there's nothing happening and you still need to gather some energy and carry on when there's no wind. You need the experience. And sometimes it's the new kids on the block that need to be here and find a new way, discover something that nobody's thought about, a new style, dance a new dance, find a new spot in God's mission field that needs exploring, that none of us have ever seen before. And it's that community. That's why sharing is important. Sometimes the leaders lead and the followers follow, and sometimes the followers carry the leader. That's how a community is supposed to work. And so this morning, I want to skip the singing. We'll sing one song to finish off. And I want to spend the whole time hearing your story about MCC and all that it involves. And please don't think at all, ever or ever again, that your story is not important or is unimportant, or what you have to say is unimportant, because it is. And it's important because you are saying it. And that's it. That's like the only criteria. It's important because you are saying it, because you are important, because you are an important part of God's kingdom. In this wonderful mosaic that God's creating with us, if there's one piece missing, for all you jigsaw puzzle freaks, you will know that there's nothing worse, and it's not complete, without every single piece. And so this morning, you are every single piece that we need in this present moment. Students, elderly, youngsters, visitors, first-timers, old-timers. We're all part of this mosaic that God's building here today, in the present moment. Remember Tim last week? In the present moment, where God is with us. So let's hear your story. Warts and all. Because in this community, we don't just share success stories. We share about our struggles, about our difficulties, about our hopelessness, and about our failures. And these stories are equally valid to those success stories. Because through both, God weaves the, as Tracy mentioned, the wonderful symphony that God's creating. I once sang in a choir when I was a youngster. And there was about 100 people in the choir and about 100 people in the orchestra. And we sang Handel's Creation. Is it Handel or Haydn? One of those. Handel. And there was large parts where the choir didn't sing and just a soloist sang. So I looked around at the orchestra, and there was a percussionist who was a particular interesting character to watch. And I can't demonstrate it with the mic. But what he did, basically, he bashed his drums, like boom, 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 and then stopped. And then he had his eye on the conductor whilst he retuned his drums. And then he counted. And if you look at the music, there was 176 measurements of rest, where the guy did absolutely naff all other than wait. And then when it got to like 170 rests, he picked the sticks up, and then boom, 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 stop. And then he was waiting again for like another 200 rests. That was it. But without his contribution in those crucial times, the piece wouldn't have been what it was. He was an integral part of it, even though for a large part he did absolutely nothing. And so let's hear our stories this morning. If you speak through the mic, that would be wonderful. It is going on YouTube. If you really don't want it, let us know and we'll switch the sound off for your story. Is that okay? And then Emma made a wonderful MCC birthday cake. And we'll have that at the end, and I'll explain a little bit more about the significance of cake. Who's going first? You're going first. Nice one.
There was a venue on at the platform, and I right enjoyed it. And then I was invited back here for a meal, not knowing anybody. And I could see that they were loving, they were caring. And I thought, wow, fancy inviting me round for a meal when I didn't know the people. And ever since then, I've been coming. There's been a time where I stopped coming for a while, but it had nothing to do with Morecambe Community Church. It was the way that I was feeling with my faith. But yeah, I've been coming since then for quite some time, and I've not looked back. Right, thank you.
Oh, do you want to go? No, you go next.
I've been coming since 2003, started at the college, which seems like an awful long time ago now, makes me feel old. Started at MCC in 2003 when I just had Joe. The people, they were all so welcoming and so loving, and I've felt at home since then. Never looked back.
the first time I came up to Morecambe in 2003, and I went to a place called Harvesters, and I met Sylvia there, and she asked me back to her house, and then she said, "Oh, would you like to come to church with me?" And I said yes, and that was in 2004, and that's when I've been coming here since 2004. And I don't look back either. And everybody's been so helpful and so kind and supportive during my times of illness. And thank you very much.
When I first started making these handmade rainbow badges, I wasn't actually planning on making it as big a deal as it is. But when people in the church actually started taking a liking to it, now it's raising money for a charity, and I've actually started gaining confidence in my art ability to do something out in public, and they're going out of the church as well.
Well, listening to all these people who've been here since 2003 and 2004 makes me feel like a really young person, because I haven't been here anywhere near that long. A real newcomer. What is it, 4 years? 4 or 5 years? 3, yeah. And, I've been part of lots of different churches, and lots of different churches that call themselves community churches. And what that usually means is they're a community as long as you obey what you're told. They're a community as long as you don't stray from what's preached from the front. Not very much a community at all, but here, community church, this is my family, this is my community, this is where I love to be with everyone. And, having the opportunity to serve as part of the trustees at Impact has been wonderful. Because as a retired person, it's quite possible for me to not do anything at all, or even just spend all my time doing Scouts, as my wife insists that I do. So I just wanted to say thank you very much to everybody. And 20 years is a very long time. But as I was saying to Michael, that means that next year is our 21st birthday. So that means even bigger celebrations, I think. So, yeah. Praise God for the heart of everybody here. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I suppose I'd better do something. We might as well keep it in the family. No, when I think of church, I've been involved in different churches at different times. Not actually that many, but it's never had a particularly positive feeling. The church I was brought up in, I was the only child who didn't go to one particular school. And all the others were kids of the estate who all knew each other, played together, and I was outside of that group. So we'd finish, and I'd keep then saying to my mum, "Can we go home? Can we go home?" And I'd get in trouble for interrupting her. And then she'd take me home and tell my dad that I'd been naughty. And then I'd get spanked. This was how I thought about church. And then we were in the church that Darren was talking about, where every issue, every thought, everything that you could think about, there was a church line on it. And if you kind of agreed with that, that was great. And if you had your own opinions and your own thoughts, and, well, you could get the feeling that you weren't exactly trusted. Certainly wouldn't give you a microphone. And there was a lot of talk about freedom in worship, which actually meant you had to do certain things. You know, freedom meant that you had to raise your hands and you had to dance, and you know, if I mention being free to sit down with my hands in my pockets, no, that's not. Yeah, but it meant that by the time we came here, we were tired, we were a bit worried, and I don't think we realised until we were here just how much we were hurting. And the way people have accepted, the way people have been happy to say, oh yeah, do you know, I've never been sure about that, or yeah, I ask questions, or oh yeah, just talk how you want to talk. Doesn't matter, you don't have to use special language. Or, you know, it's just been so soothing. And when we first came and I listened to some of the worship songs and thought, oh, it's exactly the same type of song, or even the same song, and I felt almost frozen and didn't want, but through listening to people and just through that accepting time, and the way nobody tried to fix us, and nobody said, oh, you've got to be like this, and, you know, nobody kind of got 10 people to all come and lay hands on, or rather, assault. No, maybe not assault, but you know what I mean. And I am just so glad, because that acceptance has made it so much easier for me to hear God and to trust that, to know that what I'm hearing is actually God's voice. Because for years I've thought, oh, I don't hear from God. Because everything I thought I'd have to check out with somebody else, or, you know, and actually, no, God speaks to all of us, and God's there for all of us. And everybody's acceptance has made that so much easier for me. So thank you.
No,
Hi. So we've been here way back since like April. Yeah, it makes us feel really old. Yeah, so I just wanted to share a little bit of the church that I came from. So my dad's the pastor, and we're Anglicans. And for Anglicans, we're actually pretty, like, low Anglican. Like, we sing the same songs that you guys do. So, like, it's a really good church, and I love being Anglican. But when I came here, I was kind of nervous because there's very little structure, and I'm used to, like, a lot of structure. But one of the things that our church has really been struggling with recently is community, in both senses, the community within the church, but also going out into the community. And my dad's actually been really frustrated with our church lately, because we've been trying to suggest new ways of doing things, and a lot of the community is just like really not wanting to, and it's all about the Sunday morning and the traditions that we're doing and communion, and that's the stuff that's really important to them. And just since being here, I've just seen like how the traditions and the structure, it's good, but that's not what God wants from a church. Like, you have to go further than that, because Jesus went further than that. And so, yeah, I just think that I wanted to share that with you as an outsider coming in, that I think that that's something that you guys are doing really, really, really well. And I think we'd all agree on that. We chat about it after church on Sundays. We're like, oh, wow, it's so cool, the stuff that they're doing. And the way that you guys just know each other. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but like some people in church don't know each other. Like, I don't know all the people that I go to church with. I don't remember their names. I don't know where they came from or where they're going or who they are. So I think that that's just really cool. And I wanted to let you know that that is something you're doing really, really well. Yeah.
Coming to Morecambe Community Church has been really, dangerous for me. All my life I have had a uniform of some sort. I started off as a brownie, and then when I was older, I joined the Navy, so I had a uniform then. And then, not long after that, I became a member of the Salvation Army. And then when I came out of that, I became a street pastor. So I've always had a uniform, and I've always been part of something that had a very strict structure. And so coming to Morecambe Community Church was a bit scary, because all those things didn't apply anymore. And so I've really had to learn how to get closer to God, because there's no one to tell me what I should be believing, and not hide behind a uniform anymore, because you can get away with a lot when you've got a uniform. You know, in the Salvation Army, it's amazing. People, when I'm on the street, they used to come up and ask me to look after their dogs, and they're shopping and ask me the way to the toilet, you know. So I was a person of stature, but not so now. And so I've really had to learn who I am and what I believe, and that's scary. But you know, I'm getting there.
I've got notes. But I'm not going to talk for that long. For once, I have been lost for words. I've been involved in the 20 stories book that we've been writing. Carolyn and Keith and I have been organising it. And so I've been privileged to read stories of people who have been touched by impact over the years. And when you read that book, you will feel like me. You will feel lost for words, because it is so emotional and so wonderful. And then I just can't find words to describe it. And I'm normally the Gob of England, so yeah. But I was thinking of a quote that best summed up the church. And I thought of Charles Dickens' quote where it says, "It was the best and worst of times." I think if you've been somewhere for a long time, you realise that it doesn't just come together. You realise that there's a lot of energy and thought and care that's gone into it. I watched while Michael and Tracy and others faithfully towed trailers, pulled out chairs, equipment, up and down a lift, getting their children stuck in that lift for years and years and years and years, for laying out chairs and just praying that they would be filled. The things that I've seen have been indescribable. And what sums it up for me are these words from the Bible. If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will heal their land. And over the years, I have not only witnessed, but I have experienced that healing in a deep way. I have been through some joyous times, and I have had my heart broken on more than one occasion. And I wouldn't have changed it for the world, because it has been the most amazing journey. The people that are in this room, I count as my family. And it has just been a really special thing. Two things stand out for me. One of them is, a long time ago, we had a prayer meeting in the room next door. And we talked about a church that really helped people and really stuck their neck out for people. And it was very soon after that that Tracy wrote The Dream, which if you've never read it, you really should. And yeah, I know it's there. I painted it. And I remember after that conversation, Michael said a sentence that has really stuck with me, and I think I'm quoting him right. Are we serious about this? Because if we are, it is really exciting. And what I've seen over years is that Morecambe Community Church has always done what it says on the tin. Those values that are over there, that's always what I've seen consistently. When things are difficult, when things are going well, they have always done what it says on the tin. And for Michael and Tracy, you know, what I have seen from them is just unending commitment and service to God in the face of adversity, in the face of challenge. And so many people's lives have been changed through that service. And the reason it works is because no one here is serving each other. They're not serving each other, and then when each other lets them down, they stomp off. The reason why we're all still friends, the reason why we're all still here, is because we're serving God. And we've done what we said on the tin. And I think that we should really be proud of that. And whether you've been here for 100 years like I have, or whether you've been here for 5 minutes, you have been part of that tin. And many people have been changed by that work. And, you know, God has stood with us through that, through every step of the way. God has kept Danny alive. I have no idea how. But for some reason, he is still here. I have met people closer than anybody. Rachel and Paul, Michael and Tracy have been a lifeline to me in so many ways. And yeah, it's just been an amazing, incredible privilege to be here and play my small little jigsaw part. And I hope that in another 20 years, we have more stories to share. But thank you to every one of you who has been here. Every one of you has meant something special and does mean something special. And I think we should be incredibly proud of the fact that for 20 years we have done what it says on the tin.
I don't know how I got this. Right. Oh, I think we've been here 4 years. And it's been exciting 4 years because Liverpool have won 6 trophies during that. So I mean, they hadn't won much until we came here, so there must be I'm sure that's not part of it. Well, we all knew that God was a scouser, so it's all right. A bit like that, I'd spent a number of years working for churches and an outdoor centre, and always having to play a party line because working in the church, you have to go along with what the beliefs of that church were, otherwise you'd be kicked out. Yeah? Or you represented an outdoor centre which was part of a bigger Christian community, and our views weren't exactly the same as the others. But I recognise that you couldn't actually say all the things you'd like to say because you were part of the trustees, and all that would take the blame for all our different views and things. And, so it was actually fantastic to come to a church where actually I can be a heretic amongst other heretics. Kind of, and find that actually we're all heretics really type thing, because none of us have actually got the truth there. And we're actually on a journey of trying to find out what is the truth. And it's great to come to a church, and these last 4 years, to actually be able to be a part of that journey as we try and figure out exactly what God wants us to do, and part of what God's bigger picture is for all our lives and things. But yeah. I don't know who's going to get this to now.
I got my bit of paper. Be lost without my bit of paper. As you can see, I'm quite young. So I've not been here for 20 years. So I can't tell you about that. So I thought I'd tell you about how we got here. So there's a bit of a story. How did I get here? It was... Yeah. I'm going to tell you. It was a bit of a Shabbat in Jerusalem when God said he should move to live in Morecambe. Bit of a shock. It was a bit of a shock when we realised how much decorating was needed to put our house in Wales on the market. Bit of a task. It was a bit of a task master who drove me on to paint all those rooms. To be fair, she did pick the colours. Bit of a dragon. It was a bit of a drag on the M6, going up house hunting in Morecambe. The drive seemed to take longer each time we made it. Bit of a nightmare. It was a bit of a nightmare get when houses were selling before the sun came up, and certainly before we could get up on the motorway. Bit of a nut cake. It was a bit of a nut cake when we arrived, so, oh, this has just come on the market. House liked, offer made, offer accepted. Hurrah! The seller changed their mind. Bit of a knockback. It was a knockback to the beginning. When we shown the house, we rejected months before. Just come back on the market. If this is God's plan, could he know more about bungalows than me? Bit of a no-brainer. It was a bit of a no-brainer, but she always calls me that. It was right, of course. It was almost as if he had kept it safe until I could see the obvious. House finally bought. Bit of a thank you, Lord. It was a bit of a thank you, Lord, for the joy and tears we'd shared with many fellow Christians in Wales. Sad goodbyes. Bit of a new chapter. It was a bit of a new chapter starting October 18th, 2018. We're here. What now, Lord? Which church? Just need to get started. Only just arrived and the church recommended. Bit of excitement. It was a bit of excitement going into that first church. Are we Methodists, though? Wait, someone's speaking here tonight about another place where they reach out to those seeking help, a place offering hope. It was almost as if we were meant to hear this. Bit of good timing. It was a bit of good timing that got us here in the first place. Should we take this hint and go straight to this curling church, or go round all the churches first? Bit of a decision. It was a bit of a decision made to go round all the churches. After a few weeks, some confusion. How will we ever know which one? Seeking guidance on the 30th of November, the word came, don't get trapped. I will send someone to you. Bit of reassurance. There was a bit of reassurance that kept us going to over 16 churches. Some of them so obscure that even their members found it hard to find them. Never getting trapped, always welcomed. Bit of a trek. There was a bit of a trek completed when on the 27th of January 2019 we found, or should I say, the one sent found us. Bit of answered prayer. There was a bit of answered prayer when we stepped into a local church. I don't know whether it was United or Reformed, but on that day it was blessed to have Pam Dent circuited to be the speaker. And it was almost as if we were meant to meet. Reading from Luke 4, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Bit of a shiver. It was a bit of a shiver hearing Pam speak out boldly that if the church didn't think it had this same anointing as Jesus to bring good news to the poor, proclaiming release and the Lord's favour, what was it for? Bit of a message. Bit of a message received. No more trekking, no more seeking. We recognise that anointed church. MCC. Been there on our rounds. Knew it was the right place. Been here ever since. It was almost as if we were heading here from the beginning. Long way from Jerusalem. Bit of a journey. Bit of a blessing.
I don't know how I'll follow that, but anyway, I'll try. Yes, we've lived in Derby, we've lived in Newark, and Wales, and Pembrokeshire, if you can say it. And we've been to various types of churches. And when we drove past here and saw you girls didn't get to see this, but the shutters here had faith, hope and love painted on them, which was such a eye catcher. And I thought how lovely that was. But when we actually started to go around the churches, we was trying to find where he wanted, as Alan said, where God wanted us. And we came here, I think perhaps the 4th or 5th church that we visited, this was here. And we were so moved straight away because you could see the care, you could feel the love, and it just spoke to us. But no, we didn't make the decision then because we had lots to see and he might want us somewhere else, so let's just go with the flow. And Alan says 16 churches, and I used to think it was more than 16 churches, but the reason it felt more like more than 16 was because we came back here after the first time. We came another twice, just for the pleasure of it. And when we decided, yes, this was the church, we were a very happy couple. And I was born in Morecambe, and this young man I married in Morecambe. I was 18, he was 21. And we've been together all this time, and we've been married 53 years now, 53. And ask for forgiveness. He shouldn't swear, Lord. Tell him he shouldn't swear. We are happy. This church is happy. And the reason it is happy is because there is love here. And what does God want for us? He wants us to feel loved, be loved, and that we can love others. I finished there.
Need somebody to pick the colours as well.
Well, similar to Liz and Alan, my Alan and me, I was retiring, and we knew that Morecambe was the right place for us. We knew that God wanted us here, but we didn't know whereabouts. And we wanted to live near enough to be able to walk to church. So we ended up having a flat just around the corner. And that flat, when we first went to it, a little bit like you guys asking God, on the front door, there's a little plaque, a little cross that says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." So as soon as we came to that, I was really saying, right, this is it. Alan said, not sure, yeah. Went in the flat, and it was a sort of dull day, and then I went onto the balcony, and a rainbow. And I love rainbows anyway, like Alex. And I love rainbows. And this rainbow appeared as I stood on the balcony of the flat. And I said to Al, this has got to be it, you know. So anyway, similar to you guys, this flat went off the market. And we thought, oh, that's it. We were looking at another flat just a few doors away. And we thought we were going to go for that. And it wasn't right for us anyway. Next thing, this was back on the market. So we ended up living where we are. So it was the house, the place for us. But we wanted to go to a church that we could just walk to. And we did try another church just one time. They were really, really friendly. But we knew they probably weren't right for us. So we came here. We knew what the vision was because I'd read up on the internet, on the website. And I thought, that sounds exactly where we're at. You know, we want to be involved in people in the community, caring for others. And we want to be involved in a church that believes that. And so we came, and we never left.
So I came to Morecambe Community Church many years ago now, and we came because we were looking for a church where difference was accepted. And when we came here, that's what we found here. And it was absolutely fantastic. And I was still quite young in my journey back then. Well, it's that long ago now. And I never grew up as a Christian. In fact, I was completely against any form of organised religion in any way. I was really wasn't something that I saw myself ever doing. And then when it was getting really hard for me one day, I just thought, there's got to be another way to live. And I was outside of church at the time, so I decided, well, I'm going to give it a go. So that's what I did. And I started reading the Bible online mainly at the time. And I was going to a different church, but I really didn't feel that at the time one of my children was accepted as much as I'd hoped. So somebody else had said, oh, you should come to this other church. It's really good. You'll love it. I was like, well, okay. So we did, and it was Morecambe Community Church, and we felt so welcome and accepted, and it really helped my faith grow coming here, because one of the things for me was, yes, I wanted to follow God. Yes, I wanted to be a Christian, and I wanted to change my life in that way. But for so many years of thinking, well, why are people just reading a book? It can't just be reading the Bible all the time. And when I came here, that's not what it was. It was faith and love in action. And it was, everybody was doing something. Everybody was living the Bible in a real way. They were helping the community. They were helping people. They weren't just reading it or coming here on a Sunday and then going home. And that's what really sped up my faith in a way. When I came here, I was like, wow, this is where I want to be. This is what Jesus is to me. It's not just reading. I'm not somebody who can sit and read for hours. I just get bored, I trail off, and then I've forgotten what I've read, so I have to go back again. But living it and being part of a community that accepts you and you want to help others in the local community is what really brought me to Morecambe Community Church, and it completely changed my life coming here. I met some of my best friends here, like Emma says, Michael, Tracy, and Emma and Peter. And, you know, I've got some of my closest friends here, and I couldn't be without doing what I do now here. And it's just absolutely fantastic. So thank you. Yeah, could have done. Yeah, could have done. So yeah, thank you.
Well, I came to Morecambe Community Church because I didn't like organised religion either. One thing that I've been determined, and I suppose as you get older it gets easier, was that in my faith I just wanted to be myself. I wasn't brought up in a Christian home, and there are pros and cons to that, I think. And I just wanted people to be able to be themselves. And I think that's been really evident this morning, because God created you for who you are, with a character, with a brain. And he wants to use that brain, he wants to use your hands, he wants to use your feet. And I just wanted to be in a church where these inhibitions that hold people back from being themselves weren't there. And so it's just been such a blessing to hear stories of people being able to be who God created them to be, and no pretenses, being honest, and having doubts at times, because Thomas doubted and that strengthened his faith. I think if we don't have doubts and questions, we don't strengthen our faith. And exactly some of those things are in the dream that God gave me in 2003, where people can just be who they're meant to be and grow, without inhibitions, without people saying this is how you should be to be a Christian. And obviously there's a Bible to show us that, but it's not always interpreted in the right way, so we've got to dig a lot deeper to find out what it's really saying, because remember, it was written in a very different culture by very different people in a very different style to the way we read here in Britain in the 21st century. So yeah, and that's what I hope and continue, that I hope that it will continue far beyond Michael and I, because it's not about Michael and I, and it never has been, that it'll continue into the future with people that will carry that dream, that people can be themselves.
Unlike a lot of people, we found it hard to get here, hard to find this place. But we're persistent. I think it all started because I was going to retire from work and live a life of leisure. And so we bought it. We thought we'd buy a caravan.
And we went out near Capernwray, and there's the most beautiful caravan site out there, and we bought a caravan. And it was just a wonderful weekend away. Every weekend we would come up, and you'd come up the motorway, and you'd come up past the university, and there were the hills, and my heart would leap every time I saw that. It's the most amazing place. I'd never been to Morecambe. I'd been to Lancaster because my brother had worked in Lancaster for a while, but I'd never been to Morecambe. Didn't know anything about it. And after we'd been here, I don't know how long, I had no idea when we came. Do you have any idea when we first came to church here? It was Grosvenor Park. And we'd been to one church, and it was all right, but that was it. It was all right, and nothing spoke to us. So, and in the winter we found this church in this school, and we thought we'll go there and see what, because it appealed to us. It sounded right, and we went there, and it was empty, and there was nobody there. And we thought, oh dear. Never mind. We'll try somewhere else next year. And in the winter, you were looking for churches. And she said that place that we went to, it was empty. It's still online. I said, well, maybe they only do it online. She said, it doesn't seem to. They're talking like they have church every week. So I said, well, we'll try it again. And we did. And we tried it again. And it's been a joy, and it's been everything. Once we found it, it's been life as you expect it. It's been family as you expect it. We've had our upside downs, our arguments, our agreements, and we've grown into this place, and there is no other place. But the real testimony to this is that we got the word from God that this was the place that we should be. And it may have been the second week we'd come, and Michael was laying out, I think it must have been an anniversary of some kind, he was laying out what the church was all about. And at the end of it, I looked at Barbara, I said, I've heard that before. And she said, what do you mean? I said, somewhere I've heard that before and I don't know where. And I've racked my brains. When I went back to Manchester and I went home, I looked on my computer and I found where I'd heard it before. I'd written it. And I'd written it from something that God had shared with me, and it was what church should be like. About church should be welcoming, should be open, should be a family. And one of the keys was church should never be frightened of people leaving. Like anything that happens in life, sometimes people will come here and grow here and need to move and need to go elsewhere to find their new place. And this fitted exactly. And it fitted in with exactly what Michael had said. It was like two pieces of a jigsaw. They were different, but they had the same basis. And there is nothing better in life than getting confirmation from God that you're in the right place and you're doing the right thing. And I wouldn't go anywhere else on Sunday. I can't leave. And no matter what you do, Michael. I cannot leave until God said it's time to go. He sent us here, and here we stay until that time comes. I don't think that time will come. I hope not.
So I'm up here now as not only as somebody who comes to Morecambe Community Church, but as a trustee of Morecambe Community Church and somebody who works for West End Impact. So we're doing a bit of both now. So Emma, Ian and Darren here and myself are trustees. And Tracy mentioned before that it's not about her and Michael. And that's, 100% true. But there's also that tiny percentage that you can add on to that it is about Michael and Tracy. Because it's their personality that brought us all here. It's them. It's, we get on with them. Everybody here can relate to them. And if they weren't who they are, we might not have stayed. We might have gone somewhere else. God has used them for 20 years of bringing us all here. And I think that's fantastic. But it's also caused a lot of sacrifice for them as a family. And they have missed events. They have done lots of things that we don't see in the background. They have done everything from scratch, haven't they, really? And it's just more volunteer hours than we could ever really put together. So what we've done as a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek, first off, is we've got some certificates for you from as part of.
So it is about God. It isn't about just certain people, and we know that. But you need a captain for any ship, and we have two of the most faithful captains that God could have ever put. Two captains together that have worked tirelessly, unendingly, without ever saying, I can't be bothered, even when there was no energy or strength left. And it is my privilege, Michael, to give you this certificate, awarded for countless hours at both Morecambe Community Church and West End Impact. Thank you.
And I've got a similar one for Tracy.
If you both just want to pop up, please. Yeah, just pop up over here. So we would like to also honour you as a family as well, so including Matty and Amy. So we have put together there's a card from Emma and Peter there. And we have one for the Cole family, which we would like to put towards a holiday for you all together as a unit that needs that together at this time. 20 years is a very long time, and it's all the children's lives. So we would just like to put this little contribution towards some family time for you all together.
There is one person that begins with J that we haven't mentioned this morning, that isn't Jesus. But some of you will remember Joanna Fawcett, and we can't go past this morning without mentioning Joanna Fawcett. She was the most amazing woman. She was in her own words, she was a fallen Carmelite nun. And she came to this church. She was the quietest person, but she was such a powerhouse. When she prayed, God listened. Her carrot salad and her egg custards will go down in history. Metal soup, yeah. We had the privilege of helping her when she suffered the most awful journey through cancer. I remember one day, Tracy and I thought she'd died, and 2 minutes later she was stood up trying to look for hair curlers. It was an awful time, but Joanna was such a faithful servant of this church, and her dream was that we would have our own building. And this building is here because of what she started. And those of you who had the privilege to serve with Joanna, you know, she was great. She was just absolutely great. And I remember at her funeral, Michael and Tracy's daughter Amy bought a little donkey because that was her favourite. And Amy carried this little donkey. I can still see Amy's face now carrying it. She was about 7 or 8 maybe. I can't remember, maybe even older, 10. But yeah, this donkey to me just symbolises everything that this church is about, that people humbly walk as servants for Jesus. And if that can be our legacy, then that is amazing. Let's be those humble donkeys that serve for Jesus' cause. Joanna was an amazing person. There's been many amazing people that have crossed our path, but Joanna was special, and it seems right that she should have a mention.
Thank you for this morning. It was what all of you said was just so great to hear, and I will probably watch it back several times, and if it's okay, I will type up some of those quotes and keep them. I have some quotes of people who've said stuff that every now and again I will read when I'm feeling low, and when I'm feeling nothing that I do is worth anything, and then I read those quotes and find comfort in them. And I think what you have, what we have shared this morning is God's heart that somehow birthed us here. And I'm just so grateful and thankful for that. I could have never imagined we would turn out like this. I always describe us as a dysfunctional extended family. And like Roger said, you know, sometimes we fall out and we have some scraps, and there's the weird uncle and and the granddad, and but together we make who we are, and that's the wonderful thing. Emma has baked a phenomenal cake for us, and as part of our 20-year celebrations, Western Impact's giving out 20 cakes to 20 significant people who have been part of our journey. And not just people, but also organizations. And this morning it's MCC's turn. We're one of those 20 cakes. If you're not familiar with the setup of Morecambe Community Church and Western Impact, then good luck, because it's we're making this up as we're going along, and rules are written in hindsight, not as we go on. And so MCC and Impact is the best way we can work out God's mission for us, God's missional charge on our lives. And it's not perfect, but it's two independent charities who work together as one. The edges are fluid. Morecambe Community Church, we pay rent here to Western Impact on a Sunday morning, and we're the only ones who pay full whack rent. We pay £9 an hour. Everybody else gets a discount. And Morecambe Community Church underwrote Western Impact's mortgage to buy the building, and committed to paying rent. That's why stewardship gave us the mortgage to buy the place. And we also lent Western Impact, was it 30 grand? 30 grand that we've been paying back faithfully as Morecambe Community Church. as Western Impact to Morecambe Community Church in an interest-free loan. Wonderful setup, isn't it? But it's because it's one expression, 2 tracks. And so this morning, as Western Impact, we would like to present the cake to us, Morecambe Community Church. And we need to take a picture of it. So yeah. But let's. It is. Yeah. So if we could just tell you what, Emma, we'll gather around there, shall we? Or is it movable? And then we'll take a picture. Bit like last week. Remember, we took a picture. This week we take one with a cake. Yeah, so you stand somewhere and we'll gather around and we'll take a... Yeah, tell you what, let's just film it and I'll take a screenshot. That'll work. Yeah. That's actually
That was him.
We're in 1, 2, 3. It's microphones 1, 2, and 3.
Your shining in the darkness. I will follow you, oh, my lighthouse, my lighthouse. I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore. I won't fear what tomorrow brings. With each morning I'll rise and sing. My God's love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa, you are the peace in my troubled sea. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness. I will follow you, oh, my lighthouse, my lighthouse. I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore. You're the fire before us. You're the brightest. You will lead us safe to shore. Fire before us. You're the brightest. You will lead us safe to shore. You're the fire before us. You're the brightest. You will lead us safe to shore. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness. I will follow you, oh, my lighthouse, my lighthouse. I can trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore.